It really just doesn't make sense to me, and genuinely I believe that this thinking will cause more deaths in the next few years. Hello friends, yesterday I made a video about cardiovascular disease and bodybuilding. That video got a lot of comments, which I appreciate all your comments, of course. They help the channel a great deal. Some of the comments though touched on a subject that's sort of a pet peeve of mine or bothers me a little bit because I think it may harm the public health, honestly. And I want to talk about that subject today. But before I do, please subscribe to the channel, like the video if you haven't already, and comment on the video to support the channel. Also, try turning on closed captions. Apparently it helps the algorithm a lot. I've been hearing this from a lot of subscribers. Anyway, let's get started. So the subject we're here to talk about is why supplements are not superior to medicines, and why we shouldn't broadly prefer supplements to medicines when it comes to extending our life or preserving our health or treating actual medical conditions. You'd be surprised how often I get comments on the channel. And it's interesting because the channel is a biohacking channel that's a little bit focused on longevity. So you'd think a lot of the people are forward thinking and research medicines and health and so on. But I get a lot of comments saying things like, oh, another drug, or a drug to chase the side effect of another drug. People seem really antagonistic towards medicines, pharmacology, but they seem to feel like supplements are fine. I got a lot of questions yesterday when we were talking about how bodybuilders who use steroids for decades could potentially prevent themselves from developing atherosclerotic plaques in their cardiovascular system. A lot of the comments I received, even though I only mentioned 4 medications and didn't mention any supplements, even though I did mention lifestyle and diet, a lot of the questions I got on that video were about what supplement could I use to inhibit the plaque buildup. Even though we're talking about people that are using drugs, but they'd rather use a supplement to try to combat the side effects of the drug, which I find bewildering. So let's get into what's wrong with supplements. First of all, supplements are not regulated. So this means that the active ingredient in a supplement changes between brands in the amount of the active ingredient and changes between years of the same brand. I was surprised to notice this myself when I first started looking at third-party reviews of supplements. So for example, red yeast rice, which is a comment I got a lot of people were asking about red yeast rice. For those that don't know, red yeast rice contains a natural statin. Oh yeah, statins are also natural, by the way. They're not medicines that are made up from out of nowhere that they were actually natural, and we modified different kinds of statins to create better statins like rosuvastatin and pitavastatin, which don't use CYP enzymes and therefore have less cross interaction with other drugs in our metabolism. But people don't want to take advantage of that. They want to use red yeast rice. Well, if you guys check out third-party reviews of red yeast rice suppliers, you'll find that the active ingredient in the red yeast rice changes year on year, and almost none of the red yeast rice suppliers contain the amount of active ingredient that they claim they contain. On the other hand, there's another problem that can come from the lack of regulation of the supplement industry, which is contaminants. A lot of supplements have heavy metal contamination. For example, I made a post on Instagram today about this. Someone was asking about the supplement Shilajit. I have never used Shilajit myself because every time I looked at a third-party review of Shilajit products, I found heavy metal contamination. I've never found a Shilajit product that was not contaminated. And there are a lot of supplements that are like that. In fact, a lot of heavy supplement users, like myself, I haven't tested for heavy metals, but I use a lot of supplements. People like me often have a high amount of heavy metals because of the contamination of the supplements, even when we're looking at third-party reviews. The second problem with supplements is that, by definition, they can't have extracted a molecule and isolated it. Otherwise, it would become a drug. They wouldn't be allowed to sell it. So therefore, plant extracts and stuff like that contain many active molecules that change our biology. Therefore, because there's many of them, and we may be only trying actually to use a couple of them, we get more side effects by definition. If you isolated the molecules, you get less side effects. A side effect is something that you don't intend to happen, and you're not intending to use any of those molecules. So there are a lot of little side effects that are happening that you're not aware of. But beyond that, it's also less specific. Because you have many molecules, you're not cleanly targeting what you're trying to target in your body. So it's also less powerful. You can't isolate the molecule. You have a lot of other molecules with it. If you raise the dose too much, the other molecules become a problem for your body. So that's why it's less powerful as well, usually. But there's also a third reason, which is that these supplements tend to have whatever the active ingredient is, the molecule that actually works. That molecule is usually completely natural. It hasn't been modified at all. Now, there are some natural supplements that turn into medicines. We could talk about that. In fact, let's talk about that now. So, for example, when a supplement is actually that effective, it turns into a medicine. It gets a several phase trial and it gets approved for sale. So for example, Vascepa is an isolated EPA from fish oil That is a medicine that you can get from your insurance, from your doctor, from your cardiologist. And it saves lives. 4 grams of EPA from Vascepa in their trial reduced heart attacks by 25% among people already on statins who already had a heart attack. So these things really do work, and when they work, they turn into medicines. There's also metformin, for example. Metformin is also completely natural, it's just an isolated molecule. So in these cases, sometimes the natural molecule works very well. But that's not always the case. If you just think of it naturally in the world, not everything that you find is going to work perfectly for what you want it to be. You may have to modify it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have furniture, for example. We wouldn't have anything. We'd be sitting on trees, for example. People want things that are so natural. They'd be living in trees and stuff. So we have to modify our world around us, to get things to be what we want it to be. So chemists, what they do is they find natural molecules. And when researchers discover that those molecules don't work particularly well for some reason, there could be many reasons, they sometimes modify them chemically to see if the new molecule works a little bit better. But it's still based off of a natural molecule in some way, inspired by it. So when you limit yourself to supplements or natural things, you limit yourself to, you can't have anything that human beings have modified. So you're putting yourself technologically back, and you're not using the optimal molecule for your physiology and biology. But that's not really why I study drugs so much. So I do love life-preserving drugs, of course, and many supplements, but I study drugs because their pharmacology is a way that you can learn the biology of the human body. So you can learn biology through the studies of medicines and pharmacology. I don't know where I came up with this approach, but I just naturally fell into it, and it's been very useful for me. So that's why I study different drugs all the time. It's not because I'm obsessed with drugs or something like that. Now, this subject has been bothering me for a long time, but why I brought it to you guys today is because I'm genuinely concerned that professional bodybuilders have this kind of aversion toward protective medications, and instead try to search out supplement solutions for their problems. A supplement solution, as we discussed earlier, will never be optimal for a health problem. Rarely be optimal. At least not without medications. Maybe you add supplements on top of the medications, but it will rarely be optimal. A good example of this, for example, is Fouad Abiad. So Fouad Abiad, about 1.5 years ago, came into a conflict with me because I made a comment about a video he made. He made a video saying it's a supplement stack for high blood pressure. Apparently, he said he had found out he had high blood pressure that was uncontrolled for years, and now he started taking medication to control it. But his coach, Dante Trudel, sent him a supplement stack to use in the meantime. This was before I think he got on the I don't remember exactly. But the point is, this supplement stack, first of all, not all of the supplements were very relevant to kidneys. But the second thing was that putting it out there, like, if you have high blood pressure, you could use these supplements. Supplements are not that effective at modulating blood pressure, but when they do modulate it, they won't do it consistently. That's a very big problem for your cardiovascular system. The inconsistency across the days and the years is a very concerning issue. Even if you were able to get your blood pressure in the right range with the supplements. And you're not checking your blood pressure daily, so you don't really know that those fluctuations are happening. So it's a very, a dangerous proposal to put this video out from a professional talking to younger people saying, hey, you could use these supplements to control your blood pressure. That's not the right approach. We have very safe blood pressure medications that may even extend life in people that don't have hypertension, that don't have high blood pressure. So I don't know why people are so scared of these medications. It's like they'll take a lot of medications to get to their goal, but they are so averse to taking any medication to prevent the problems from the other medications. They'd rather take a supplement. It really just doesn't make sense to me, and genuinely I believe that this thinking will cause more deaths in the next few years that could have been preventable if people saw these kind of videos and said, hey, maybe I should get on a protective medication since I'm taking all these other medications as well. Anyway guys, I hope this was a little thought-provoking or helpful, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.